You all voted in my Twitter poll, and this one was practically unanimous. And suffice to say, these reviews are gonna have silver flying spheres that drill into people's brains. What? What'd you think I was gonna say? Even though the Phantasm series is a horror series that is thought of with the same level of reverence as, all the other greats, Friday the 13th, Nightmare on Elm Street, etc., 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 I notice that Phantasm doesn't really come up heavily in conversation a lot, and I think because this is a series that has always marched to the beat of its own drum, and a lot of people have always had a hard time trying to figure out what was going on inside Don Coscarelli's head, because the Phantasm series has always sort of prided itself on never really sticking to a linear storyline. It's always one that's always banked on being very dreamlike and also very surrealistic, and actually many times has story threads that are overly complicated and no one really knows what it's leading up to. And even all the way through the fifth entry in the series, people still are having a hard time figuring out where the whole thing's going. But I think that's the genius of this franchise, because Don Coscarelli started this with an ultra low budget and fresh off the heels of a respected film. I believe it's called Jim the World's Greatest. And while it was very well received, unfortunately didn't really perform. But because he had one little sequence which could be, written off as scary, he thought, wow, that was awesome. I want to do more stuff like that. And that's where Phantasm came in. And he had so many big ideas for this first movie. So much so that from what I understand, one of the early cuts of the film was, I believe, nearing 3 hours long. So much so that a lot of it had to be cut, but more on that later on. But all the ideas they still puts into this film make the film extremely atmospheric, very intriguing. You don't really know if everything you're seeing is just one big nightmare or if it all is, legitimately happening. But the film, doesn't really play that hand all throughout. I mean, you're convinced everything you're seeing is real, but at the same time, though, what you're seeing is so thoroughly out there. I mean, even this was manifested from Don Coscarelli's nightmares. So you get the vibe that he took that nightmare and decided to make a movie surrounding said nightmare. So there is this kind of ethereal tone that permeates throughout the entire movie, and one you could even argue even carries through the entire series. So stick with this. We're going to keep going, talk about all 5 of the movies in the series, so stay tuned.